Hi, I'm Al from Red Art, and today I'm going to be painting with you the Christmas thongs. Now, I've already drawn the stencil onto my piece of paper. I got the stencil from our website, which is www.redart.com.au, where you can download stencils for all our pictures. So I've enlarged the stencil, I've drawn it onto the piece of paper. I've got my water, got my wet rag ready, I've got my brushes ready. And I've got my paints I'm going to be using for this: black, white, red, turquoise, yellow, and fawn, which is a flesh colour. And the first thing I'm going to paint on this image is I'm going to put the yellow in, because that'll help me decide, knowing that the yellow is already painted in. I don't want to paint over the yellow, because if I have to fix up corrections with yellow over the top of another colour, it doesn't work well. So what I'm doing is putting this layer of yellow in as a reminder that don't paint on this area. I can paint on it, but it just reminds me that I want to keep that pretty pure, that area. Yellow's a light colour, and it doesn't cover other colours very well at all. We've got the ribbon around Mrs. Claus's head, and his belt buckle. Now I've painted over the lines a little bit, doesn't matter because it's a light colour, and you can still see the lines through the yellow paint. I think that's all of the yellow, yes it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on their face out. So first thing I'm going to do is give their faces a pre-coat, undercoat, prime, whatever you want to call it, just a skin tone. And by giving it this first coat, it makes that paper a lot more easier to work, because all that paper wants to do is absorb the paint and hold onto it. But if it's already got a wet layer or a layer of paint on the top of it, it just allows the next layers to be easily painted over the top, because the paper's already prepared with an undercoat. So I'm going to do Santa first. Once again, I can see my lines through that light colour. So now I've got the undercoat in. I'm going to start working, we're going to start light first, do the light sections. Now the light's going to be hitting his forehead, so I'm going to add some white to that and blend it just with the tip of my brush. Keep putting some whites in till I'm happy, till I get to a tone that works, where it looks like the light's hitting the top of him. The light's also going to be hitting the peak of his nose, the ridge of his nose. And I'm doing the lights first because it's easier to go from easier to do the lights and then go to dark than it is to go from dark to light. Just the top of his cheeks are going to be a little bit white. That's that light coming down and hitting the top of his cheeks. And I'm blending with the tip of my brush very lightly. If I push too hard on my brush, it's just going to rub that paint off. And we don't want to do that. We just want to blend those two colours together. And now I'm going to put some, Santa's got red cheeks. So red is very powerful. If you put too much red on your brush, It goes through everything. It overpowers everything. So I'm lightening the red down with the flesh colour. Just only a pinch of the red in just to get it to the consistency I want. I don't want these cheeks to be too red. Got too much paint on my brush. So now I'm just giving him those red cheeks. Very lightly. I can always add more in as I go. It's always easier to add than to go backwards. It's always a lot harder to bring things back. I'll put a bit of red on the tip of his nose. It's only a really faint red. I'm just going to put a little bit more red in there just for the sake of the video, because I'm not sure how well you can see that toning. So I've got a bit more red there. I'm going to get that paint off my brush and just use water just to blend it into the rest of the background. Just slightly with the tip. Now his lips are going to be red. With flushes of white where the cracks are coming down. And just blend that bottom edge in a bit. The top edge is going to have black lines. Now I'm not going to do any dark shading because we're going to use some black lines on Santa just to highlight the spots, sort of like a cartoon character Santa. We're not going for great detail, so I'm using mainly just the lights. Now we'll go to Mrs. Claus. And she seems, once again, I've got that yellow there, so that warns me, don't paint over that section. Just leave it yellow. She seems quite happy, Miss Claus. I don't know why, because Santa's away working at this stage. It is Christmas. Now this is a good time to consider your brush choice. I'm using a size 6, but I know there's some spots around the insides of the glasses where I'm going to go down to like a size 1 or 2. It's all personal choice, what brush works for you. There's no set way you need to do things when you're painting. All the art's all about fun. Now I'm now doing that undercoat again. Now I'm going to go to the smaller brush, wherever it is, it's over here. And just painting those spots inside around Mrs. Claus's eyes that I missed. Oops, these. Sorry, Miss Claus, I've got skin in your eyes. Okay. Now, we'll do that white highlighting, same as we did with Santa. The brow. Well, it's going to actually have some darkness in it because of the hat. The hat's going to give her some shadow. Top of her nose there, it's going to be hit with a light. put my cloth up there. Tops of the cheeks, just a pinch of white blended in. If your paint's not blending, add some water, wipe your brush, put some water on it, make the paint work for you. That's it, you don't want to be a slave to the paints, you're going to make them work the way you want them to work. Right, now I'm going to use that red that I used for Santa. We're going to give her her red cheeks. Clean the brush off. Just use the wet brush to do the tip, just to blend it into the other colours. I'm getting rid of any sharp edges in the collars and just making them smoothly flow into each other. Thing to remember with acrylics, they dry slightly darker because acrylics, they go to a flat colour and they go darker than what you've actually painted them. So always keep that in mind, that your colours are going to go darker. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of shading under their nose, and this requires just a pinch of black in my skin colour. I'll do it under Santa's nose as well. That's a very light shade, and I don't want it any darker than that. I'm going to use my finger as a tool just to blend. Now that shaded area, I'm going to make it a little bit darker with the black. The shaded area, we're going to the shaded area under our hat. Get rid of that paint off my brush because I'm finished adding with it. And now I'm just spreading it. Do a bit under her brows. Rightio, there you go, Mrs. Claus. I'm just going to make sure I've got the whites in her eyes there. When I'm going to finish them, I'll come back to finish them when the paint's dry. Then I have to cover up some mistakes here, so I'm putting that white on pretty thick, and that's why I'm doing it now, because I want to give it a chance to dry out. Right, we'll do her hair. She's grey. So basically, I'm just putting white in the hair. Now this is where I'm saying to myself, oh, maybe I should do the blue background first and do the hair over the top of it. And will I have the same problem with Santa? Yeah, let's just do it. We're going to do the sky background. Now I've got turquoise with sky. It's too strong. I'm going to lighten it up. I want quite a lot of it. I'll just put my hand in the black paint. I've got a habit of putting my hand in black paint all the time. If I'm going to put my hand in any paint, it's always black. This will solve that problem. There. So, I don't think I've got enough paint mixed. I've got a lot of area to cover. I'm going to make sure I've always got more paint than what I need. I haven't fully mixed that together. I don't mind having a bit of white if it stays in the strokes. missed drawing part of my stencil on there, which I'll draw on now. Done. Going to use a bit of water to spread it, help spread it. Once again, I'm just getting it all wet first, and then I'll start doing the detailing in it. Evening that paint out. Now I'm going to go to a smaller brush in the centre here. So before that, I'm going to do horizontal strokes in the paint, because skies aren't vertical, they're horizontal. If you do clouds, clouds are horizontal. They might be on a bit of an angle because of perspective, but we're not putting clouds in this one. Go back, those vertical strokes, horizontal strokes. So there's the background for Santa. And I'll stay with the little brush. Those horizontal strokes as the last flow. I'm not worried about going over the lines on the middle bit there because it's black. It'll cover, black will cover everything. So back to the bigger brush. If you wanted to, you could put some clouds in, but just for the purpose of this one, I don't want to go into too much detail. Light blue, very light blue, an indication that it's a warm summer day. So there we have the sky for the background. So where was I? This is Claus's hair. Grey hair, so basically it's white with some light grey shading in it. So I've done the white. Now I'm just going to get some white and add black. You never add white to black, you add black to white. Otherwise you're going to waste too much white paint trying to get it light. And I'm going to I'll use a smaller brush for this. She's going to have curly twirly hair. Just getting some twirls in there. Next to her face it'll be darker because there's shading. Now I'm going to just put a couple of darker bits in as well. Like I said before, always work from lighter to darker. It's going to be shadowing under the hat. On this side, shadowing under the hat. There you go, Mrs. Claus. Now we'll go down to her neck. Move that cloth over here. Her neck and arms. She's wearing a one piece. Now some of that grey shading under her neck. I'm not even going to bother with any detailing on her arms. I think they're fine the way they are. Right, we go with the reds. Yes, we will. Now, I could do the beard first, but I want to try and put some thick white paint that goes over the red of his suit on his beard. Look how strong that colour is of the red. Now I don't want to go in where the white beard is at all with the red, because if I need to cover it with white, it's just impossible. It's not impossible, but it's too much work. It's okay where the black bits are. So I'm using a short round brush for this because I don't want to have any chance of making mistakes. Reds are so dominant. It takes over a lot of colours, and it's hard usually hard to get a first coat on that red that's opaque. Lucky enough here, it's working quite well with the paper. I know on canvas I struggled getting a first coat that's nice and thick, but it takes over any colour that's close or lighter than it. And for that reason, I avoid reds, usually. Once I get this on, I'm going to decide whether I need to do any shading with it. He is a rotund fella, so maybe there's some spots just to show that. Notice I'm not doing any of the black yet. Always leave black to last if I can. Okay. Oh, his hat. Just using that tip to get a fine point. Whoops. Right, do I need shading? Just going to put a bit in. So I'm going to get some red, just a pinch of black. Under the strap here. His shoulder. Maybe a bit under his belly there. Clean it off and just blend it in with the water. I've only lightly, I didn't want to add too much dark. All right, Mrs. Claus. I go with a smaller brush. Now, if you're using canvas to paint on and you haven't used canvas before, it's always good to put a wet surface down first, a wet coat. Canvas likes to grasp onto paint when it's dry. Same as paper, it just wants to grab it and absorb all the water out of it. But canvas has also got the pores in the weaving, and if your paint's not wet enough, it'll leave white spots where the paint hasn't absorbed into those weaves, into the gaps. Just add a little bit of water to your paint. That solves that problem really well. Alright, I'll use a small brush just to do the corners. Yep. Don't know if you can hear that. Some kid screaming as he walks past. So I'm going to definitely have to do some shading on Mrs. Claus's boobs. I could just do a black line, but that would look silly. Do the fill with a bigger brush. Unlike the sky with Mrs. Claus, I'm going to try and do the brush strokes. It follows the contours of the body, a rib cage. Now we're going to do that dark, get some red. We're going to do that, just a pinch of black, do that area under her breast. Sorry, my paws are going a bit smaller. Clean my brush off, don't want any more black, and I just want to spread that black out into the red. Make it slowly disappear. Best tool I've got, my finger. And we're going to do some highlighting. Actually, we might do the bottom edge of her breast, just soften up that line. We're going to do some red and a pinch of white in that. Not a pinch, half red, half white. The light's going to be hitting the top of the breast, so I'm just giving it that lighter tinge of red. Right, Miss Claus. One hung low, that's her name. Let's make it a bit higher. Ouch. Now, have I done everything other than the black? Oh, Mr. Claus's beard. Base coat of white, nice and thick. Going over the edge of that red just slightly, just to show that the white's on top. His hair. Now this, I'm leaving it very thick on, quite thick on, because I want that white to collar to cover the edges of everything else. I'm not just going to leave it white. You've got to have a bit of texture in the beard. So I'm going to get some grey, that really light grey, underneath his moustache, and then run it down. And I'll have to fix up that moustache. Just getting that grey stroking in that beard as it comes down to the knot at the underneath. Get some grey into that as it goes into the knot and out of the knot. Now if you wanted to break up some of that collaring, just use the tip of the back of your brush. Flick some off over to the red slightly. Now, another white coat on his moustache to put it over the beard. Get that grey stroking in his hair. Now I want to make that moustache pop a bit, so I need to have some darker underneath it. Excuse me. Just going to make the tip a bit darker just to make it stand out. And scratch it. Oh, the glass on his, that's his beard done. We need to do we're going to get some thick yellow just into that band. And I'll put some black outlining on that. His glasses, the band's going to be black, but I'm just doing the plastic inner first. It's going to have reflections of light on it. So I've painted it black. Now I'm just going to get some white. Just put some strokes in. And I'm going to do a little bit of blending with those strokes. And I might have to put a bit more white on after it. Just softly blend them so there's some grey. Vertical strokes. Just get some lighter bits in. All right. Mrs. Claus's eyeballs. Black circle. Now if you're not confident in doing a circle, find something that's going to do a black dot, practice it on a bit of paper that's going to be the right size. Oh, we forgot Mrs. Claus's brows and Mr. Claus's brows. So we're going to use that light grey. Get the paint off, soften them up. That'll be fine. Right, before I do the black bands, I'm going to do the black outlines around Santa and Mrs. Claus. To do the black outlines, get some black aside, add some water to it, not too much water. If you add too much, you'll start seeing through the black, so you'll have to just get that happy medium where you get a thin black paint. Use the tip of a pointy brush and just outline when spots you need to outline. If I don't want to push hard, and I don't want to go slow. If you go slow, you start to shake. If you don't get the lines in the perfect spot, doesn't matter. If you put too many lines on, you're going to lose a lot of the image. So you don't want to put too many black lines on. Oops. That's fine. And I think Mrs. Santa, I might just put some in the sleeves. And just a few black lines in her hair. just to make it pop a bit. A good picture will always have whites to blacks, or the lightest version or something to the darkest version. Right, Santa Claus. Once again, I'm only putting black lines where I think I need them. Like if you were to paint my painting just exactly the same as I've painted it, what have you achieved? You've got to make something your own. Paint it to your version. Put a black line under that just to break up. Just separating the mustache a little bit, probably a bit too much, but he's got his mouth open, so we're going to put black. On his nose. Miss Claus, forgot your nose, did I? Now if these black lines aren't perfect, or you haven't got them in the right spot, doesn't matter. Don't go try and fix them. They're going to look good with mistakes in them. Now his belt. Whoops, gonna have to fix that bit of the beard up. I'm just doing all the outlining, then I'll get a bigger brush to do the fill. Well, I've got a bit too much water in that black paint, and that red paint is actually coming through the black paint. Now you can paint this any way you want. You could give Santa a Hawaiian shirt. Different types of hats. Use your imagination, change it the way you want. Now I'm just going to fix up the white, the bottom of that white bead. Just needs some touching up, so it comes back over the belt instead of behind the belt. There we go. I think they're finished. Now before I do the black outlining of the thongs and the black things, I'm going to do the sand. Get my large brush. Now the sand is not detailed. We don't want people to focus on the sand. You want people to focus on the thongs. So, just getting the base coat in. I'm going to test now how I'm going to do it. Just want to break it up. The tip of my brush, trying to get some texture in there. If I push it too much, it's just going to blend all that colour in. I don't want it to blend in. Oops, sorry, Miss Claus. Just getting a little bit of texture on that sand by dabbing. You know, as soon as you dab too much, that white's going to disappear. So you've got to stop. Now I could put some darker dabs into this sand. I could use a different brush, a thicker, stronger bristled brush, a hog hair brush, to get that definite dabbing dots happening, so there's a sandy effect. Oh, we're nearly done with that background. Sorry, Santa. Excuse me. Okay, for this paint I'm going to call that done for the background. Now I'm just going to do some outlining around the thongs. A bit of shading. I'm just going to make them come up off the sand a bit. So I'm going to put a shadow effect. So I'm just getting that grey thorny colour on the edge. And I'm going to clean my brush, dip it in the thorn, and then break it up. Oop. You know you're painting too long when you're starting to make these silly mistakes, which is what I'm doing now. But I'm nearly finished. When you get to that stage, get up, walk away for 10 minutes. So I've sort of got a shadowy effect coming off the side of that thong. Now I know that's what we call them in Australia. If you're an American, you're probably thinking, what, a thong? A flip-flop. I think that's what you call them. Right. Getting close now to finishing this one off. Just putting a black edge. Oops. Come on, Al, stay with me. Breaking up the outside of that edge with the black line. Get all that black out of my brush. And we're going to do the same with white. Now all I've got to do now is the straps, and I'm just going to paint them black. And I'll find the brush. Well, this paint's still wet, so I'm just leaving it as long as I can. Now remember, if you want any of our stencils, or just to have a look what we got, go to www.readart.com.au. You get your stencil, you get the image, you get this video to watch at your own pleasure. Get your friends over. Open up the Moscato. Have the snacks. And have your own little paint party. Or just do it by yourself. What I do is, before paint parties, I stencil on the tracer onto the canvas before people turn up. and just the joy that you get from people's faces from when they see that they don't actually have to draw the image on, it's already drawn on for them. It's priceless. That fear of failure, that's one less step people have to worry about. Right, I'm going to call those thongs done. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share our videos, do whatever you do to help us out. Wait for our next video next week. Hope you enjoy that too. Thank you very much for watching. See you later.
If you found this video entertaining, helpful or inspiring, we'd love for you to consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. Subscribing will ensure that you never miss out on any of our future content that we create, especially for you.